Salutations, Africans. The bitter Thabo Mbeki. He is at it again, right? The bitter Thabo Mbeki has started again with his attacks on his successor, being President Jacob Zuma. I think you guys have seen the headlines, the news, the articles that came out over this past weekend, where the former President Thabo Mbeki suggesting that the former President Jacob Zuma, who succeeded Thabo Mbeki, may have been a spy that was planted by the Apartheid in the Robben Island, right? Remember, President Jacob Zuma spent 10 years in prison in Robben Island, right? He was arrested, then he was sentenced, and then he spent 10 years at Robben Island. So now you've got this Thabo Mbeki who suggests that President Zuma may have been there on a mission as a spy planted by the Apartheid regime. I know it's upset, right? It's upset. Like, you're trying to make sense of what Mbeki is saying, because he's saying, yeah, but there are no records to show Jacob Zuma's trial, trace it and all of that, his sentencing and all of that. But now, here's the thing. Here's the genesis. The fact remains that, and it's not just Thabo Mbeki, it is even people who supported Thabo Mbeki. We know plenty of them, right? From the local level, who were councillors, you go to the provincial level and all of that, people who were supporting Thabo Mbeki prior to the ANC 52nd National Conference in 2007 in Polokwane, right? So Thabo Mbeki and those people, they have never moved on. Those people have never moved on from the defeat that they suffered at the hands of President Jacob Zuma and his slate. For those who do not know, in 2007 in Polokwane, there was a consultation for the presidency of the ANC. This was a consultation between the then president of the ANC, who was of course the outgoing president of the ANC, who had served 2 terms as the president of the ANC. He was also a state president in his term as a state president. His name is Thabo Mbeki. So he was in a contestation with his deputy, right? His deputy being President Jacob Zuma, right? Deputy in the ANC, because he had dismissed Jacob Zuma as his deputy president in the state, right? So there were these tensions. And remember, here we are talking about 2 different characters. We've got this pompous, self-centered, aloof Thabo Mbeki, who believed that he's the best thing to have come after the slice of bread, right? Who believes that he's the best thing, right? Then you had Jacob Zuma, who of course of his limited formal education, because of course some of us have got a broader definition of what is education. So here I'm referring to the formal education. He had that limited formal education compared to what Thabo Mbeki had, because Thabo Mbeki studied at London and all of that. Then President Jacob Zuma left school at standard 2, just grade 4, because of the different circumstances and all of those things, right? So you had these 2 candidates who were contesting for the presidency of the ANC. So now if you look at this history of this pompous Thabo Mbeki and all of that, of course he believed that Jacob Zuma was no contest to him, right? So he could not see himself suffering a defeat at the hands of President Zuma. Hence he's unable to heal, right? Of course, came the conference, then Thabo Mbeki was defeated by President Jacob Zuma for the presidency of the ANC. It was a humiliating defeat, more so for someone who is a sitting president, right? He suffered that defeat at the hands of President Jacob Zuma. Remember that now that is 2007. Thabo Mbeki is still a state president because his second term was running up until 2009, right? Meaning he's left with just less than 2 years to complete his term as a state president. Okay. Then now, because there's this condition, there's going to be 2 centers of power. Remember, you've got the state president being Thabo Mbeki. Now you've got the president of the ANC, newly elected, being Jacob Zuma. And of course, the government needs to take mandate from the party that is the governing party. But of course, you know, Thabo Mbeki, even before the conference, the 2007 conference, he already started undermining the ANC, creating his own power in the state, right? Whereby was undermining the African National Congress, right? So now you've got this contestation. So 2009, now it's 2008, it's early 2008. What do you do with Thabo Mbeki now? Because the national elections are only in 2009. That's where it happened in September of 2008. Thabo Mbeki was recalled, right? In a crude language, was fired as the state president, right? So of course he suffered that humiliation, right? So you look at that humiliation, the 2007 Polokwane Conference humiliation, the September 2008 humiliation where he is forced to resign, where he is fired as the state president, and all of this is done, right? Is done by someone he deemed not to be good enough to lead the ANC. So of course he's always been angry, right? He's always been angry at President Zuma and all of that. Because now look at this suggestion, right? And even if it's even worse now with the 2024 elections. Remember, Thabo Mbeki came back into active politics to try to campaign for the ANC, but they suffered a humiliation again, right? And mainly because of President Jacob Zuma and the political party that they established, which is Umkhonto weSizwe Party, right? So Thabo Mbeki, his ego is not healed from all these defeats that he keeps suffering at the hands of JZ, right? So what the best thing to do now is to tarnish the image of JZ as a spy, right? As now terming him a potential spy. Therefore, you're causing a credibility crisis for JZ, an integrity crisis for JZ, right? And here's the thing. During the days of the struggle and all of that, Mbeki was in London, right? Sipping cigar, doing all those of things. Then you've got a President Zuma who's arrested and sentenced to 10 years in prison in Robben Island, doing the hard labor, right? Doing the hard labor. So now you ask, but between the two here, who suffered the most at the hands of the system? So who would fit the profile of a spy here than someone who was living it large in London, than someone who was in prison for 10 years doing hard labor, all in the name of the struggle, fighting for freedom? And even post the 1994 dispensation, who has suffered the most at the hands of the white monopoly capital system, at the heights of the imperialist, or at the hands of the white establishment, between Thabo Mbeki and Jacob Zuma? Even today, Jacob Zuma is still running in the courts, right? Because the white establishment wants to finish him off. So now you ask yourself the question, but now how is it possible? Make it sense to us that you've got this darling of the white establishment accusing someone who's suffered so much at the hands of the white establishment, now accusing him of being a spy of the white establishment. Make it make sense to me, right? So I'm saying Thabo Mbeki is just a bitter old man, bitter just like the rest of his supporters. We know them, we interact with them at different levels, right? At personal level, the social media platforms, we interact with them. These people, they will go to the grave bitter because they could not picture themselves suffering a defeat at the hands of someone they thought is uneducated. You see. So we must just make peace as South Africans that this is something that the likes of Thabo Mbeki will go to the grave with that bitterness. They will take it to them to the grave. They will never forgive JZ for what he did to them. So this is my response to what Thabo Mbeki has said about Jacob Zuma. Thabo Mbeki is just a bitter old man, and he knows he's not even a half of a man that JZ is. That's just a fact. On many facts. On many facts, on many factors, on many indicators, Thabo Mbeki is not even half of a man that JZ is. And he cannot live with that fact, unfortunately. You see. Thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. Please remember to like, share, subscribe. And guys, I've created an email list. I'll put it on the description. Please remember to click that on that email list, so it'll take you to a landing page. Then you'll register your names there, your emails there. So I'll send you each time I publish a video. Then I'll send you that video is directly to your email, and the articles, because I write articles. I've got a blog. So then I'll send you the articles there. I'll send the books, right? The books that are relevant to what I'm advocating for. That's a benefit of subscribing to that email list, that you'll get the books, you'll get the articles, research, any type of documents, information that will help us to ensure that ideologically and in terms of our consciousness, we elevate. Thank you very much, guys. Siyabo.